Hi, welcome. My name's Sue and this is Sue Marie P. Today I'm going to share a Swedish cake with a crunchy caramel almond top, known in Sweden as Toscakaka. Tosca, I think it comes from Italy, and kaka means cake. I'm not sure of the true origins, but it's a really buttery and moist, and it's super delicious with the crunchy top. It looks fancier and harder than you think. It's quite an easy cake to whip up. So I'm going to do it today with spelt flour, but feel free to swap this recipe out for regular flour. I'm going to do it in a method called reverse creaming, and I'll share a video shortly just on what reverse creaming is all about. But it just pretty much means that you put the butter in with all the dry ingredients. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to put in half a cup or 100 grams of caster sugar. And I've got white spelt flour. I'm not going to sift it today. We're just going to put in 125 grams. Or before you do anything else, if you're baking along at home, make sure you pop your oven onto 160 degrees C fan force, and I'll pop the Fahrenheit measurement above, and preheat it for about 20 minutes before you want to start cooking. And what I should have said, you can sift, but I'm not sifting today. I'm just going to do it quick and easy, because this is a perfect afternoon tea cake. And in Sweden, they call afternoon tea fika. So that was 1/4 teaspoon of salt that's gone in there, and that's half a teaspoon of baking soda, or bicarbonate of soda as it's called here in Australia, and one teaspoon, gotta stop speaking so fast, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So that's all my dry ingredients. So before I pop it on there, just whisk it by hand just to create some air and combine the baking agents and salt with the flour. I'm going to start it on low, and as I start it on low, I'm going to slowly add the butter in. So this is different from the traditional creaming method, and it creates a really moist, velvety texture. So like when you make pastry, I'm going to try and get this butter so it's all broken down and combined into the flour. So I'm just going to bump the speed up a little bit. If you've clicked on for the first time, welcome. You might want to consider subscribing. I do loads of spelt recipes, cakes, breads, cookies. I love cooking with buckwheat flour as well. I love doing some flourless and gluten-free ideas. And every now and then I share what I'm having for dinner. So now I've got 2 large eggs. We're going to add them one at a time. So when you add one at a time, it just helps introduce the egg into the flour mix. And I beat it for about 30 seconds on medium, or until you don't see the yolk anymore. That was less than 30. I think it was about 20. I was trying to count in my head. Now the second egg. And I've got some vanilla here, vanilla extract, and I'm going to use just 1 teaspoon. You can also grate in lemon zest or orange zest for a little bit of a citrus feel, but I just wanted to keep it quite simple. And then in here I've got milk. I'm using whole milk today just because I thought it'd be easier, but I do also bake with oat milk, and usually oat milk works fine in most cake recipes. I just need to tell you how much milk I've got. I've got 70 mils. Let me just measure that out for you and see how much that is. I've got my half a cup here. So 70 mils is just shy of a half a cup. I know many of my viewers don't like measuring and they like cup measurements, but I would highly recommend using a set of scales and measuring, and then your results are more accurate each time you try to replicate the recipe. I'm just going to beat that quickly until it's smooth for about 30 seconds to a minute. But what I should have said, you need to stop it and scrape it. So we need to do our stop and scrape dance. That's for all my young viewers and anyone else that knows that I like to dance. Pop that around. 30 seconds of dancing. I didn't learn this kind of dancing when I was little. I did ballet and tap and jazz. Okay, my batter's really smooth and that took no time. Before we started filming, I prepared my cake tin. I'm going to do it in a 20 centimetre round springform cake tin. I've greased it and lined it with paper just down the bottom. And the reason I've got it in on the tray is just easy to bring in and out of the oven, and sometimes with a springform, depending on how old it is, you can get a little bit of leakage underneath. Because we're going to do a caramel top later on, I just want to safeguard and make sure that nothing leaks out. So I'm going to scoop all this off my beater. You can also do this with a handheld electric beater, which I should have mentioned before. double checking that all the butter and everything's mixed off the bottom. Just one last check. And pour that batter in. I'm going to bake this in my preheated 160 degrees warm oven, and I use a fan forced, and that's for 25 to 30 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it, bring it out, and then next thing we'll do is make the caramel topping. So to make the caramel topping, grab a small saucepan. You could do it in the microwave. You could pop it in the microwave in a microwave-proof bowl. I don't have a microwave, so I always do it on the stove top. And we need to add some brown sugar. I'm going to use light brown sugar. I just wanted to measure out how many cups that was for you. It's 100. Sorry, beg your pardon. Let me grab my notes before I guess. So to make the caramel almond topping, we're going to put in light brown sugar, 75 grams. And this is, I've got 1/3 of a cup here, and I think it's just a little bit over 1/3. Maybe if I jam-packed it in, it'll be about 1/3. I've got some milk. That's just 25 mils, which, let me just measure that in teaspoons. There's about 6 teaspoons of milk, and again, I'm just using whole milk, but if you've only got a plant-based milk, that should be fine as well. And I've got some butter here. I ran out of my unsalted butter, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to use salted butter today, and that's 75 grams. I'll pop some other measurements above. And I'm leaving the salt out. But if you've only got unsalted butter, just pop in a little bit of salt, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. So I'm going to melt all of this just behind me for about 5 minutes until it starts bubbling. And in here, I've got some flaked almonds. This is my 1 cup. So it's, yeah, about 1/2 cup of flaked almonds. So once that's all boiled up, I add the almonds into the boiled caramel mixture. I'm going to give my little mixture a stir over here. I've zoomed you in so you can see what I'm doing. So that butter's almost melted and the sugar's dissolved. And because we've got lots of nice bubbles and carameliness happening, I can start turning that off. Grab my flaked almonds, throw them in. If you've only got dark brown sugar in the house, you could also use that, or even just caster sugar. But I love the carameliness of the light brown sugar. So that's ready. We'll just let that sit here and cool, and then it's ready to pour on top of the cake. My 30-minute timer is going off, so it's time to grab the cake out. Now we need to bump the oven temperature to 180 degrees C. And we need to pour on our prepared caramel topping, the crunchy, praline, almondy thing. And you will notice that the cake's not totally cooked on the inside, or it shouldn't be. Hopefully I didn't overbake my cakes. Let's just pour all this on and just spread it over so you've got a nice thin coating, or even coating rather. So now I'm going to bake this for an extra 10 minutes in the heat in the hot oven. I've just popped the temperature up 20 degrees. So I've put my 10-minute timer on and can't wait to show you. So my cake's all cooked and it's out of the oven, and I've had it resting here for about 10 minutes. And I've just popped my spatula around the edge just to release it a little bit. And my almonds have kind of like gone off the top a little bit. So while it's still hot, I scrape them to the center. So if that happens to you, you can just manipulate your almonds back to the center. Hadn't happened before. But what I would suggest is lowering your middle rack in the oven and popping it on the lower third. And then you find that you won't have that problem like I just did. So I'm going to show you if you can see that. Look how lovely and caramelly it is. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and take off the outer ring now, because then I can let it cool without getting my ring stuck. So I'm going to let that cool on the bench completely. So that might take an hour or 2 hours, and then I'll come back and do a taste test. And it's even better the next day. And it's a perfect cake for afternoon tea, morning tea, breakfast. Shh, don't tell anyone. We always have cake for breakfast because we always have lots of cake. Anyway, I'll come back and cut it up in the next few hours. So I'm back with my cake and I've removed it from my tin, and I've had it cooling on the bench for about an hour. I've done some photographs and I've cut a slice off, and I'm going to come a little bit closer. so I can show you and do a taste test. So have a look at that. It's kind of quite buttery and light, and you've got this delicious crunchy top. It's quite a light sponge, not too sweet. I've just made myself a cup of tea, so I'm going to go away and eat this. So let me know in the comments below if you like this Swedish almond cake, and if you're going to give it a go, if spelt flour is not your thing, please try it with gluten-free flour or just regular all-purpose flour, or plain flour as it's called in Australia and the UK. It's so absolutely divine. I love the crunchy praline top. Hit the thumbs up, share it with a friend, and don't forget, subscribe if you're new here today. And stick around if you want a few other recipes up above. I've got some other Swedish treats. The reason I share Swedish recipes is we love Sweden and we've been visiting there for the last 3 years, and we are soon to move there. A little sneak peek. If you've stuck around to the end, you'll know that little information. Anyway, I'll see you next time. More to come on my move. See you next time. Bye.